It was a combination of that food addiction that was there mixed with the loss of feeling of self-worth and self-value. I didn't have purpose. I didn't have drive. I was just kind of thinking I needed to, do my basic job of providing financially, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
And didn't deal with anything internally. Just kind of let it continue to get worse and worse. It's your sister. She's up crying that she misses you. And all I hear is, I really miss you. I just really want you to come back home. And that's like, I just listened to her cry for probably about a minute, and it didn't make me instantly happy. It stopped me that night, and I can only believe it to be divine intervention. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I do not believe that it was anything else.
Most people reach rock bottom will tell you about the moment in that they decided to change. My guest today will tell you something very different. He'll tell you about the moment he decided he was sober. At 430 pounds, addicted, isolated, and in more pain than most people will ever understand, Marcus Alon made a decision. It just wasn't the one that everybody expected. What happened after that decision and the man who he became because of it, that is what the conversation is about today. Marcus, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I know it's a Sunday night, and I went to church this morning so I could be here today. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
No problem, man.
For this opportunity.
When somebody sees you today, they see a husband, a father, a coach, a man who helps others in their own transformations about their lives. But what I don't see is a version of you that was much, much heavier than you sit now. You were isolated, and at some point it wasn't worth continuing. When you think back to that man, what do you think most people misunderstand about him?
When I think back to that man, I think most people just didn't understand that he didn't want to be that big. He didn't want to live that life, but he almost felt enabled to be able to. Almost felt like it was okay to. And had many moments where he thought he may try a diet, thought he may yo-yo up and down for a little bit, thought he may try to make a change, but never really had it in his heart or head enough to do it and fully commit to it. It took a lot more than that to make that real decision to actually change, and took some repetitive beatings of that thought to change it. Ultimately, it was the thought of dying on my children that really hit home and started being honest. And I had a moment where I was actually doom scrolling and seen a video of somebody speaking about leading for their family, and thankfully doom scrolling actually helped me this time. Instead of wasting my time. But I was eating a giant bowl of ice cream in front of me, and I saw that video, and I look up at my kids playing, and I look back down at that bowl of ice cream, and I just start crying my eyes out because I realized I'm massive, and I'm eating a full day's worth of food in one bowl of ice cream and acting like it's perfectly fine and normal to continue to lead myself into an early grave with my kids having so much life in front of them. And I think that's the one that finally hit it in, finally set that thought in my head that said, you know what, I got to do something. And didn't quite know where to go at first, to be honest. Then I ended up kind of trying to go back into the gym and getting back into it. And I lost a couple pounds, but didn't really make crazy progress because I was still eating like a jerk. I was still eating crazy amounts of food, and thought I was trying. And I get a last second email one night on April 3rd. And that last second email said, "Oh, it's your last chance to join the 8-week challenge." And it was from a nutritional company called First Form.
Okay.
And when they sent me that email, it was 10 o'clock at night. My whole family's asleep. And my wife was even almost completely asleep. And I went and woke her up, said, "Hey, I'll take these pictures. This is my chance." And I knew they were going to give education. I knew that I was competitive by nature. I played sports my whole life. And I knew that was probably my best opportunity and chance. And that's where it kind of started and began.
That's pretty cool, man. When you said they were enabling you, who was enabling you?
Well, really, the real answer is I was enabling myself. Now, the answer that I would have given you back then was the people around me, is I would have said, "Oh, well, they thought it was okay." They would tell me, "Oh, go ahead, have some more, enjoy." They would say, "It's okay, you can start Monday." They would say all the usual lines that normal people that don't want to get healthier or don't have that that drive to live a healthier lifestyle will tell you, your typical. And old me would have used that as an excuse to say those were the enablers, but really it was myself, my own actions. And I can say that now because I understand entirely that that's all it was.
That's all it was. It's funny you say that. I did an episode not too long ago about a story from Anthony de Mello, and he has a book called Awareness. He's a Judas priest, but on that book, the first part of that book is a story about an eagle and a chicken. And the story kind of, to summarize it, he goes like this: it's like the eagle got lost the egg and was born with amongst chickens, and he kept growing up, and he was acting like a chicken, being a chicken, doing all the things that chickens do, right? And then when they were older, he looked up at the sky and he saw an eagle. And he asked the chicken next to him, was like, "Hey, what's that?" And the chicken said, "Oh, that's an eagle. He's the king of the skies. He belongs up there. He is the best of the best. But don't worry about him because we're just chickens." So the eagle lived and died a chicken. I like that story because it kind of goes back to what you said in the sense of you can say that all these people were enabling you as to keep the way you were being, but in reality, it is you who can see if you belong up there or not. It's just, you just have to see your own potential to where you want to be. So I kind of think that story resonates with what you just said. So that's why I brought it up. But
yeah, it's kind of like the elephant chained to a post. I don't know if you've seen that.
Oh yeah,
animation. It's a whole giant elephant, and you got a little stick in the ground, and it chains it to the stick, and he thinks he's stuck, but has no idea of the strength and power he has the whole time. It's
and that's the same thing. He thinks he will always be stuck. Most people hear 430 pounds, and they immediately think, food problem or lack of will. But I don't think anybody gets that at 430 pounds. I don't see you being that hungry to get to 430 pounds. Does that make sense? What do you think was happening underneath the weight?
Underneath the weight, I think I started to get away from what I found value in. I didn't really have purpose as much. I did 4 years in the Navy, and when I got out, I thought now the life is just to make some sort of money. And, there wasn't anything really driving me. There wasn't anything outside of it. It was, I met my wife and kids, and it was, if you're putting food on the table, you're doing fine. That's all I was thinking. So, I didn't have any problem eating. And, these eating issues stemmed from when I was younger, for sure. We didn't have a crazy amount of money when I was a kid, to say the least. And I would go over to friends' houses and they'd be like, "Hey, you can have whatever." To me, it was like the world opening up. So I would eat heavier outside of the home and then go back to my portions at home. So it created a kind of whiplash effect of, okay, well, now when I leave home, I can have way more food. So I started, growing that food addiction. And deep down, it was a combination of that food addiction that was there mixed with the loss of feeling of self-worth and self-value. I didn't have purpose. I didn't have drive. I was just kind of thinking I needed to, do my basic job of providing financially, and I'm fine.
Yeah.
And didn't deal with anything internally. Just kind of let it continue to get worse and worse.
Man, that's usually, that's what I was thinking. Something that happens, especially in Latino communities, grandma giving you food, and you especially if you don't have money, whenever you have a chance to eat it, you get it. So, we love tacos too much.
Yeah, it's clean your plate no matter what. And,
Did you think there was a lot of emotional regulation with the food that you were ingesting, or was it you were trying to manage something else?
There was a lot of hidden emotions that I kind of never really faced. As I grew older, I never really faced any of my stuff. Anything that I dealt with, I kind of, I guess, ate my way out of. I was a real heavy emotional eater, and that kind of still has stuck with me to an extent. I still have my ups and downs. But now I am at least aware of it. But yeah, my eating used to be controlled by a lot of emotions, and it at times would be at its worst when I was at my worst mentally. So, the further away mentally I got, the easier it was to become physically away as well. Get worse and worse that way.
You were in the Navy. How did that affect were you at a different weight during the Navy, or did this start before or after?
So before I went into the Navy, I was 312. I went down to 240 before I went in. The recruiter had told me, "Hey, you're a bit bigger and you need to drop a good amount of weight." I went to monthly check-ins and then got in at 240 and was in pretty good shape. I did that not really knowing anything about nutrition. I kind of just did the carnivore diet before school and just ate meats and avoided carbs. Well, while I was in the military, I dealt with a series of medical things that they couldn't figure out, and I ended up getting out at a much heavier weight than I went in. By the time I got out of the Navy, I was almost 400 pounds, and from there, I kind of it stemmed from a lot of the like steroid use and things like that that they tried for the things that I was dealing with.
Okay.
So it made me a lot hungrier on top of the food issues I already dealt with regularly. And then by the time I had gotten out, I kind of just grew accustomed to living the big person life and thought that was just the way I was going to be, up and down between about 40 pounds ish in that neighborhood. And
so that leads me to the next question that I have. But when you were at your heaviest, what was a normal day for you like?
Well, everything was centered around food. At my heaviest, I kind of always looked forward to food and meals. So I needed to know where we were going so I could see how much I could eat, when I could eat, what I was eating. It's really sad to think about, but looking back, that's what it was. It was always, oh, well, are we going here? Okay, cool. Well, I can get this. And it's, you woke up, you're kind of dealing with everyday big guy issues. You're dealing with running out of breath really easy. You're you're breathing heavy constantly. You can't really bend over to tie your shoes. You're kind of getting frustrated with the tiniest things ever. And there was a whole lot that went to it that was painful mentally and physically. And the day-to-day of that just it grows on you until eventually you grow numb to the thoughts and feelings of it. And you think that you're just living okay. You think you're living, but really you're barely surviving. You're dealing with so many issues that until you realize later that you're not supposed to feel that way, you don't really notice because you've grown accustomed to them.
That sounds harsh, man. Like, looking back, could you imagine yourself being that, or do you have those same thoughts still?
Well, I mean, I know it's not the same, but a year into my health journey, I had a Halloween. I decided to be my old self because I had already lost over 100 pounds. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be my old self as a joke. I thought it was funny. Well, I stuffed pillows underneath my shirt and made like a belly out of them. I had all my pants from beginning to where I was in the journey. So I had all the sizes as I went down. So I put on 7 pairs of pants to make my legs look bigger.
Dang.
And I looked like my old self. And it was so uncomfortable to walk, and it was nowhere near the amount of weight. It was just the discomfort from purely
it's just pillows,
the size. And I didn't add the weight. I just added the discomfort of being bigger. And even that felt so uncomfortable to walk around in because it was, it was a costume, and it was just supposed to be for fun. I didn't do it as an experiment, but it turned into an experiment. I was like, oh, this feels like shit. Like,
shit.
I don't want to do this. And, it was a good reminder. And, it's good to look back and remember the pain, because it reminds you not to want to go back to that way. But at the same time, it does kind of suck knowing that, I just kind of got used to it.
That it was normal for you. Yeah. So you talked a lot openly about suicide. I kind of want to go there for a little bit if you're okay with it. And I appreciate your willingness to talk about it. I know a lot of people that listen to this have been there. As you know, suicide is one of the highest causes of mortality in service jobs. So, like, I'm in EMS, doing for 25 years. So a lot of the people that listen to this are paramedics, firefighters, police officers, kind of stuff like that. And I know a lot of people, and some that were close, that ended up being successful at it. What was happening in your life at that moment? What led to that position?
So I had been, I'd been dealing with the medical stuff and, had over 30 different medications that I tried to use that they kind of threw at me over the course of the span of about 9 months that it took for them to figure out what was going on. And during that process, a lot of the side effects were not only the physical side that helped me gain the weight, but it was also the mental side. And between the overeating, the overindulgence, the mental side effects, and just generally being a more depressed minded person, I guess to speak, I got into a real deep hole. And during that real deep hole, it became something where I exhausted all my resources. I went to the chaplain, I went to counseling, I went to all of my friends and family and had conversations with them pretty regularly. And it got to the point where I went numb. And I don't just mean numb as in, well, I'm really sad. I meant numb as in I'm hearing a 30-minute, speech about somebody's love for me, and I do not feel a thing and have to boldface tell them, I know I can appreciate what you're saying. And I understand that you love me, but I have to tell you I don't feel anything. And it was real tough, because you understand the whole time that they're speaking that they truly love you so much. They're spending so much time and energy to give to you. Mm-hmm. And you're still not able to really match it with emotion because you don't feel it. And it got to the point where I was actually going to commit suicide. I was going to walk to the restroom and just handle business while my roommate was asleep, and wanted to slit my wrist and end it. And when that happened, I was on my way walking to the restroom. It's not a long walk if you've ever seen a barracks room. I get a phone call. From my mom. It's like 2 a.m, and she asked if I'm awake. I give her a really sarcastic answer. I'm like, no, I'm skydiving. And when you're that in that deep of a state, you don't care about people's feelings anymore. So you kind of just say exactly what you care to say, And she said, it's your sister. She's up crying that she misses you. And I didn't say anything. I didn't really think that I could say something right away. And just kind of, she hands my sister the phone, and she wouldn't stop crying. And all I hear is, I really miss you. I just really want you to come back home. And that's like, I just listened to her cry for probably about a minute. And, it didn't make me instantly happy. It didn't change everything about my mental. It wasn't some miracle success, but it stopped me in my tracks from doing it. It stopped me that night, and I can only believe it to be divine intervention. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I do not believe that it was anything else. I do not believe that there's some other explanation or coincidence.
It was him.
That's the only thing I see that as. That's the only thing I can see that as. And I've lived with this, since that moment. That moment was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And I've lived with that moment every day, knowing that I'm here for a purpose and I'm here for a reason. And, it puts everything else into relative awareness, for the other moments that I have that may be tougher. I know better. I know I have more purpose. I know it isn't my timing anymore. It's, it's his time. And, I have reason to be here.
Yeah.
I'm a dad of 3 kids now. I chase a much greater purpose than myself. And, I'm very grateful for every day.
That's cool, man. Is there any times where you ever go back there now? Or is it always, this is just a good reference point where you can kind of move forward? Like, I've been there, I don't want to get there again, but the thoughts still linger? Or,
well, I think, and this is probably the case for other people as well. I think you can say that the thought lingers in a different sense. It doesn't linger as in like, yeah, I want to do it all the time. It lingers as in like, you have an understanding for it. You understand what it feels like and what it can bring. And, you also gain better awareness for your coping mechanisms and things that make you feel a little bit better when those times are tough. Not all of them may be considered healthy for some people. I turned to dark humor a lot. I find it hilarious.
Yeah. But, we get it. It's how we cope.
Yeah. And it's at the end of the day, do I still think about it? Not in the sense that people would think if I said yes. If I said yes, people would think, oh no, he wants to do it again. So that's not what I mean by the yes. What I mean by the yes is you've been there. So you understand the state. You understand that when things are at a certain extent that you've had that thought prior. So it's almost like your brain is going to try to bring it up again. And you just understand that's not your thing. That's not me. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm at is, even at the darkest of times since that moment, of course, because life has its ups and downs. I've still, come out triumphant and understanding that there's still something more here. There's still something further ahead. There's still something that I am here for. There's still more here. This is not the end of my story. This is not where my life ends just because it's that bad right this second. A bad day is not a bad rest of your life. And uh, I've seen enough of my purpose be put out into the world and seen good things out of that I believe firmly that if I'm still here breathing and I haven't been taken away, then that means that there's still more to do. And that regardless of what mental tricks and gymnastics that the mental demons may try to play, I'm not with it. And I'm further away from it now.
That's good. Going back to that day, I'm thinking you said you had a plan. Was it more that you wanted just to end it, or were you just trying to stop some type of pain?
I was more just not wanting to deal with it. Not wanting to deal with the overall feeling that I had in general, the overall discomfort mentally, and the pain of not feeling like I had much purpose anymore. I was very unmotivated when it came to my time in the military. I was, put into a position to where I had to do my job in a different section at the time. And then, they, were trying to figure out what was going on. So I'm kind of dealing with that. And then I had a skin condition that covered almost every bit of my body, head to toe. And I looked like a monster physically. So like I would get shit from people every day, military EMS, there's playful stuff. And then there's stuff that you may not understand is from another root cause that may dig deeper than just your playful, giving people crap stuff.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things, where, I'm covered head to toe and every day I'm hearing what's wrong with you, like I don't even know what's wrong with me. So that, the mental side of that to be that bad, me not even understanding what's happening, then hearing it from everybody every single day. Then it kind of stockpiles on top of the fact that you're already feeling very fatigued with life. You're already feeling like you're emotionally done. You're already feeling like you don't want to deal with anybody or anything. You're already feeling gone and out of purpose and out of touch, and you don't feel anything anymore. So you feel like it's over. You feel like it's okay to be gone because it's, you feel empty.
You feel empty. So you had that day at the barracks, your sister calls, well, your mom calls and then tells you to get in touch with your sister. She tells you that she wants you to come home. And we mentioned that we feel like that's an intervention from God. And I believe that because I believe that he works in those ways. What happened the next day? How did you come back from that? What steps did you have to take that led to where you are now?
Well, in a quite literal sense, I did the exact same things that I would any other day. From the mental standpoint, it was more of okay, well, I'm alive again today. And you kind of slowly ease out. You don't just suddenly flip a light switch. It's never a light switch. It's never anybody that's dealt with enough mental side effect, or enough mental pain will understand that there's no light switch to just say, oh, just be happy. So it's not like the next day I woke up joyful. The next day I woke up, I was like, all right, well, I got to keep my feet moving. And, you do your day-to-day job, you do your everyday stuff, and then, you try to do the things that you were doing to fill time. So for me, it was fishing. I love fishing. So for me, it was fishing, and, I would go fishing all the time. And, even when I had those thoughts, I was still fishing often around those times. And that's how you knew it was bad enough, because you were still going to, even though you did the things you loved,
that you liked, they were still in that negative space.
Yeah. And it took a minute to kind of start to gain the joy back from things, but it did overturn eventually. Eventually you did start to feel a little more. You did start to have those times where you would go out and you would be like, okay, this is a taste of what I was missing,
Yeah.
And over time, time does eventually heal if you allow it to continue to go. And I started to work my way through it, and then I eventually, because my medical condition got deemed undeployable, so I decided I was getting out of the military. Because I couldn't deploy, there was kind of
that's what you're there for.
Yeah, again, purpose. And then getting out. Not only that, but that led into the continuation of dealing with the heights of emotional eating. other things beyond that.
So at some point, I think you've started having this transformation. I think sometimes the transformation stories sound more dramatic than they actually are. What was the actual turning point?
It was that bowl of ice cream moment,
That bowl of ice cream?
bowl of ice cream moment. And that was the, I need to do something.
And this was after the military?
Yes.
Okay.
This is after the military. After I had been out for a couple of years already, I had already met my wife. My wife had, we had 3 kids. We have 3 kids together. And, my youngest was a little baby and she was kind of crawling around. The other 2 older were playing. And, that moment really was that dramatic to look back on. In that moment, it just felt like a moment where I knew that I needed to do something. Because, just because the moment is dramatic to look back on doesn't mean that that moment is what it was supposed to be for everybody. Right. So like, if I didn't have this journey, that moment would have just been a piece of time. It wouldn't have had any special moment, but the fact that I did something after is what created the special part to it. So that moment in itself, and then of course that email, came in at like 10 o'clock at night, and it was the last day to join. So I had less than 2 hours to join. So it was cool how all of that panned out together. It's like, it was almost like God said, all right, try to figure it out your own way. And then I was still being stubborn and still eating like a jerk. And he was like, well, here's one more try, and then he kind of threw that email at me. So it kind of became like, all right, I'll take the hint,
Yeah. You got on the boat. There's a story that I like a lot. It's the guy's in a draft in the middle of the ocean, and he's asking God for help to save. And he's like, God, please save me, please save me. And and all of a sudden their boat drives by, but he doesn't get in, or he ignores it. And it's like, God, please save me, please save me. And then several boats go by. There's a couple of other opportunities, but he's just there, so just praying to God to save him. And then he dies and goes up to heaven. And it's like, God, how come you didn't save me? And it's like, what do you mean I didn't save you? I sent all those boats your way. You didn't get on, you dumb fuck, kind of thing.
Basically.
So you got on the boat.
Yep. And that's how it goes, man. I mean, it's the same thing. You ask for patience, he's going to give you ways to be patient. You ask for peace, he's going to give you moments where you can decide to be peaceful. He's still waiting on your action. And that's how it goes. A lot of people will curse the skies, but never look back at their own actions and decide if they actually made that change. And that's why, I tell people every day, I'm grateful for opportunities. I'm grateful for the blessings that are a new day. A new day really is. I know it sounds cliche, but a new day really is everything full of opportunities. You have an opportunity. I had an opportunity to not come on the podcast. I knew it was scheduled.
Well, I'm glad you took it.
What? You know what I mean? You know what I mean, though? Like, you have opportunities full of everything. Like, you never know who's that one person. You could have 50 people and feel down about 50 people viewing your podcast. And then you could realize that one person had their entire life changed.
Yeah.
And you never know. And you seize opportunities with the unknown, and that's okay. And overall, just, grew an understanding of knowing that, you can always make a big impact regardless of what it looks like on paper. Regardless of what it may seem, God wants you to seize those opportunities. It's just up for you to take those actions.
You say that, and it's so true. I've been wanting to do this podcast for a while. Not because I think I'm special or because I think I know. I just feel like I want to find more answers than I know, because I know that I know nothing. But one of the goals for the podcast was to try to help people out if they're feeling down, or if they're lost their way, or to kind of find inspiration from other stories to make their lives better. And on the first podcast that I put out back in January, I got a text from a coworker. And he said, Raul, I don't know why you started this podcast. I don't know what your intentions are, but I want you to know that I'm going through a really hard time, and I'm really going through a bad spot right now. And you sent this podcast out at the right moment where I was about to go through the other side. And he said, and I watched it and I listened to it and I decided not to. And literally changed the course of my life right now, because it definitely made me see things differently. So even if I do 1,000 podcasts, and I don't get any views, but somebody else sees that, to me, that's a worthy cause, that even that one person was able to get something out of this. So, Yeah, it's divine intervention, right? I just randomly decided to do it when I came back from vacation, and it was like, oh, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna do it. It was completely raw, completely cringe. I still think I'm cringe, but
it's good though. I mean, everybody's got to start somewhere, man. And the thing is, like, we have to keep going. And yes, people call content creation corny. People call it, well, why would you set up a camera for this? Or man, this looks X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, well, usually those people saying something aren't doing anything outside of their A to B just for them stuff. And then not only that, but we may never even see the impact that we have on other people's lives. And we still have to go through, it's like faith, right? Like faith with Jesus Christ. We never see him, obviously. We can see moments and times and things like that and understand that he's within us in those moments, but we may never actually see that. But when it comes to helping others, you never know what you put out there that at some point somebody may have heard, even if they heard it from somebody else or they're at somebody's house and they hear a snippet that helps them move forward. They could hear a snippet from a podcast that they may not even realize was something they needed to hear. And it could change their course of their entire life. And it could be the same thing with content creation. You know, somebody could feel like they are lost in their weight loss journey, you know, like we were mentioning, and see a transformation and be like, wow, that guy did it. That guy's worse off than me. How did he do it? You know, now they're asking questions rather than saying, I can't do it. You know, you never know what's going to turn a wheel that you could have had the possibility of impacting. And again, it's these opportunities that we have each and every day.
Yeah.
You just truthfully never know. And, you know, we get so bogged down with, we only got X amount of views. Well, you could have X amount of views, but one person is all it takes. And that one person could have a whole different life because of you.
Because of you. Yeah, I agree with that. And like the example that I gave is exactly why I decided, you know what? Okay, I don't care who sees this. I'm just going to keep going. There's some episodes that I've done better than others, obviously, and I'm just writing it. I'm going to keep doing it until I can't anymore.
Good. I hope you do.
Let me go back to this. So I think most people skip over this when it comes to transformations on your journey. What was harder, losing the weight or losing the identity of who you were with the weight?
Oh, well, losing the weight wasn't easy, but losing my identity is definitely the harder part, though. You know, you're living a lifestyle of an entirely different person doing entirely different things for what people tend to forget is their entire life. So I spent 30 years doing this. I spent 30 years eating ridiculous amounts of food, you know, well, 29, sorry. I made the adjustment at 29, but, you spend so much of your life living a certain way, and then you bash yourself when you finally start to try to make changes and mess up. If you're trying to change something that you've done for your entire life, it's okay to have hiccups where you just don't hit the nail on the head for as often as you want. It's okay to have that slip up, but don't be okay with it so much that you just allow yourself to be that person again. You're trying to change the concourse of your life that has been going on the same way for so long. So you're going to have your mistakes, but you need to just continue to pick yourself back up and continue to work through them. So getting out of that identity was definitely much harder because I fight that identity every day. I'm still that guy on the inside. I still know what I'm capable of. I still know I can go down to Golden Corral and have 9 plates of buffet food.
Golden Corral is pretty good.
I'm still aware of that person, man. You have to know better, and you have to understand that you spent so much time trying to fix this to allow it to go back to that. You know, you spent so much time making these efforts to adjust that person and adjust who you are mentally and internally. And when you spend all that time, you need to know that your investment needs a return. You want your return on investment. You don't want to just have all that investment and now you're deciding, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you just end up going way back. And it's like that with your mental health too. If you spend so much time trying to get out of a dark hole, you don't want to do the things that you know brought you back. If you were a heavy alcoholic or a heavy drinker and you finally got so far away, would you want to just go have a couple drinks? Does that sound like a good idea? Do the things that you know are moving you in a positive direction. And if you have your hiccups, it's okay, but continue to try for that positive way. Continue to try to move it in the right direction.
Yeah. Do you know Fluffy the comedian?
Absolutely.
I bring him up because I watched his special, the last one that he had in Florida, I think. And he talks about his weight gain, his weight loss. And he says that he had a lot of backlash from fans saying it's like, but you're not fluffy anymore. What the heck? And he was like, well, what the heck? I'm just trying to get healthy. Like, do you want me to die?
Yeah.
Did you ever get pushback similar to that yourself?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. You'll always get the, oh, I miss the old you, or, oh, I miss the bigger you was funnier. It was the funny one I used to get.
Really?
There was just some goofy things that people will say, and it's crab in the bucket mentality. A lot of people like to see you do good. They don't like to see you do better than them. And if it exposes the things that they're doing that they know they should be doing, but aren't doing, and they know they're choosing that, that's when they'll start to use the crab in the bucket, because they know better than the choices they're making, but they don't want somebody to expose it through what they're doing. So that's really what it is. It's nothing against them. They're on a different way of their life. So they're on a different path. They're on a different part of their journey, and that's okay. I'm never going to go to somebody that's enjoying and overindulging or doing what they want and living the way they want to and saying, hey, well, you really need to change that, unless it's that bad, where we need that intervention where, I love you and I care about you and I'll have that conversation with you. But if you're on a different part of your journey where you're not ready for that change, or you're on a different part of your journey where, it just doesn't seem like what you're willing to do, there's no reason to pull another person down because they're doing it.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, they will do it because some people don't have that thought, right? Like, hey, are my words willingly trying to hurt somebody, or are my words just kind of, gander, are my words just kind of messing with somebody, or am I really trying to like affect somebody's journey,
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, when somebody's trying to eat healthier, they'll always be like, oh, I'll just have a little bit. I'll just have some. It's like, you don't understand. When somebody's dealt with food issues their whole life, some is enough to be alive.
Yeah.
Some isn't just that one little piece, because it turns into way more. And the people that understand that are even worse.
Yeah, that bite of a donut leads into eating the whole entire case of donuts.
And it may not even do it right away. That's the thing, is that people don't understand that this happens with people going through this change. Is it may not even happen right away. So you may offer them a little piece of something and you're like, oh, cool. They just had that little piece. They're good. They really did. Just try it. Maybe they do have control. That night, they may be still thinking about that little piece. And they're like, well, I already messed up, so let me have some more. Food problem, when people have mental problems and disorders with food and the way that they have, I never got actually diagnosed with binge eating disorder, but it's pretty obvious to me that I have that much of an issue, that I clearly have had enough, and I still think about it that much. There's probably an issue.
Yeah, just because you're not diagnosed doesn't mean you don't have it.
Exactly. And people should have that understanding to some extent, that not everybody grows up with a balanced diet, way of living. I try to do that for my kids now, is, understand that it's okay to have a balanced diet, have that little bit, but understand that little bit is okay to just, now you're good. You don't need to overindulge. You have that little bit, and let's go back to something healthier. And, I try my best with that. And, not everybody grows up with that. So I think people, just because you grew up with a balanced diet and thought mind process, doesn't mean that person that you're trying to get to have a little bit didn't have that addictive mindset.
Yeah. And that's a real thing, because that addiction, that one step, I know I saw it with a friend of mine back when I was in my 20s, severe alcoholic, and would try to go clean and rehab several times. And she's one of the ones that I was telling you was successful at the attempt due to alcoholism and depression and stuff like that. But she would go to the bars with us, she would do all the things, but she would never drink, until one day she did. And then that led to, okay, well, I just did it now. Now, the next time she went, we saw her drinking like a bunch of shots, and we're like, Abby, what the heck? Her name was Abby. Abby, what the heck? What are you doing? It's like, oh, I'm fine. I got it under control. And then 6 months later, she's in rehab for drug use and alcoholism and all that stuff. It's a slippery slope. Who was the first person who noticed something was different in you, and what did that encouragement? Why did that encouragement matter?
So I think it was my wife. My wife saw the hunger in my eyes. Hunger.
Different type of hunger.
Well, there was hunger in my eyes, but it was different. But no, I mean, she kind of she always supported me during my journey, of course. And it was amazing for that. I appreciate her so much for that, because she loved me when I was bigger. She loved me when I got healthier, and she's loved me everywhere in between, and I'm extremely grateful for that. And she noticed that I was becoming somebody different. I wasn't, just doing it for a little while. I kept going, and I wouldn't stop until, I was going to achieve what I aimed to accomplish. And it was great to have that support, because really that was all that I really had aside from the community. The community I had was amazing, but the home support, that was the only real home support I had. My wife got to see the process. Everyone else kind of was just like, oh, well, you're doing a little health kick, or, oh, you got how's your little diet going? It was always the little pick at you questions. It never seemed like it was coming from a good place until people saw a dramatic change. Did it ever really become like a good question? It was always like a passive aggressive, like, oh, oh,
It's like,
sure,
nice try.
yeah,
Nice
you're
try,
doing
Marcus.
good. You're still huge, but you're doing it, And the encouragement at home was huge, because my wife got to see the whole thing. My wife got to see the ups and downs, and extremely grateful for it. And it was awesome, because one of the things that motivated me, that was an additional incentive, was the challenges that I was doing. So those challenges I was doing with the first format was they were 8-week challenges, but they had a lifestyle challenge, and I was kind of I had gotten to the point where I kind of had done enough of them to where I just knew I was doing it to be competitive rather than trying to win. I knew that I was looking good, and I knew there was chances of me winning, but it was like, man, my life has changed so much. Like I won. Like I'm a pretty big winner already. Like my life is way different now. And so you're kind of feeling excited. And then, I would get to the end of these challenges and be like, man, I kind of have a chance here. Like, those last couple that I did before I won, I was like, man, I have a chance. And then I finally win, and getting to celebrate that with the woman that supported me the whole time was a really awesome moment.
What kind of challenges were they? Were they like physical challenges, or were like nutritional or lifestyle challenges, or like what did they entail?
So they did an 8-week and a lifestyle challenge, and they were overall body transformation. So It wasn't necessarily a certain amount of weight. It wasn't like percentages of weight or anything like that. It was, how did your body change from A to B?
Okay.
So there was an 8-week one where you could have lost as little as like 5 pounds and still had a way of winning if your body changed that much.
Gotcha.
And then there was ones where it was a lifestyle where, you had people that had been in the app anywhere from, a few months to a few years. And, I had been in the app for just over a year and lost over 185 pounds. And I ended up winning $25,000, and got to go down to the headquarters and see how spectacular that place is. Man, Andy does such a good job. Andy Frisella and Sal and all the guys down at 1P just do such an amazing job. It's a headquarters like no others, man. Like, you go into the weight room, and all the logos are perfectly lined up. The standard is everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's not a speck of dust, trash anywhere.
Dang.
It's all cleaned up. They don't even have a janitorial staff. It's everybody's deal. Everybody in the place that works there, you pick up.
You pick up after yourself. That's cool.
There's not even water in the sink. They clean out the sinks and everything.
Wow.
So everybody, that's just extreme ownership. It's ultimately what it is just, they do such a good job. But anyway, sorry, getting to celebrate that with my wife, that experience was really impactful, because they, she got to see the huge win and be there for the whole thing. See that part of that was that much more worth it. So.
How was your wife's reaction to your transformation in her own self? Did she go along with you, or she remained the same, or did she decide to join you in this journey?
Yeah, so she joined me in the journey a lot. Like, there was plenty of times where she would go on these walks with me. She would go do the additional cardio with me, and then the support at home was huge. If I wanted to do extra workouts, taking care of the kids and things like that, she knew how important it was to make this change. So again, completely supportive the whole way. And then she would make healthier meals around the house. Like, it's way easier because of the support I had from my wife and the way that she helped follow along that path with me.
I think like there's a whole industry that runs on motivation. You see all these people like trying to just say, go do it, one step forward, you'll never do it. And I think they come from a good place. There's a lot of content creators, a lot of coaches, a lot of speakers, but I personally do believe that motivation is only the spark and it has to switch into discipline. They're two different things. So when did it actually keep going for you? When did motivation stop and discipline began? And how was that gap in the middle for you?
Is realizing that the confidence comes from the work. So when you started to build that confidence, it came from the efforts that I put in. So when it came down to motivation is a great spark. It's a great thing to have at the beginning. It's a great thing to have. And when you have it, write it out. Like, definitely don't let motivation go to waste. You never want to get motivation and be like, oh, let me half-ass something. Always use it to your full advantage. But that turnover happens when you start realizing that you are in control of creating your own momentum. And once you start, seeing the progress and seeing the things happen, that's when you start to snowball. And it becomes much easier to hold momentum. And the discipline happens when you have those tough talks with yourself. So discipline comes from understanding, and it comes from being honest. If you're supposed to be doing something, discipline comes from the honesty of saying, I know I need to do this. I'm doing this. So if you can't be honest with yourself, then you're not going to continue doing what you're doing. If you're allowing yourself to lie about X, Y, and Z, or even the small things, then, how you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. So you're going to continue to fold on yourself until eventually you don't succeed. The discipline part for me was, I was so honest with myself that I would have times where I didn't want to work out at all. I didn't want to go do that jog. I didn't want to walk, or I would do a lot of intervals because I would try running, but I could only do it for like a tenth of a mile because I was so big. So I would have like different moments like that. And I would tell myself, like, how bad do you want your kids to be at a milestone moment in their life and think, man, I wish my dad were here if only he could put down the fork. And I would have self-talks like that where they weren't like self-talks like, oh, you can do this. You're great. If that works for you, cool. It don't work for me. What works for me is being brutally honest and saying, are you letting this, really defeat you right now? Are you really gonna, stop right here because, you haven't gone too far yet. You stop now, you're probably going to end up going backwards. And, I would have those tough talks to remind myself, like, it is that serious. It is that, because a lot of people will hear that and be like, oh, well, you're just a little overweight. You're not going to die on your kid. It's like, all right, dude, that's how, heart attacks at 35 happen. Heart attacks at 40 happen. People don't understand these things happen earlier. These decisions that you make at a younger age are what leads into these problems going into your older ages. And people like to not bat an eye and think, oh, well, this is normal. If you look around, you're right. It is normal to be obese now. And it's sad to say.
But just because it's normal doesn't mean it's right.
That doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's good at all. At the end of the day, you have to have those honest moments with yourself. If you want to be disciplined with school and studies, if you know you need to study for a test, you're not going to say, oh, I need to study for this test. Let me not study. That's discipline. If you know that you need to eat better, you're not going to take yourself to the worst places to eat food and decide to eat wrong. Discipline is being honest enough with yourself and making the right choice when you need to.
I think discipline a lot of the times too is emotional. It's the emotion, like you feel, like, for example, I've been cold plunging now for about a month. And the first week it was like, I got a new cold plunge. Yay. Like, I'm going to try it out. I hate the cold. Like, sometimes I get in that pool and I'm like, oh, this is too cold. I can't stand the cold except for when I go skiing, and it's because I'm layered in clothes, right? But, every single morning I stare at that. Like, the first week I did it fine. I would get in, I would put my feet in, and I would jump in. But after that first week, I stared at it for like about 20 minutes before I get in for like 5 minutes. And I'm just sitting there staring at it in my backyard. And it's so freaking annoying and it's so freaking uncomfortable. But it was that discipline. It ran out, right? Yeah. The motivation of the first week of the brand new shiny toy that I had in my backyard disappeared, and now it's work. But it's doing it every day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you don't want to, even when it's early in the morning. Sometimes I get up, I come back from work, and I've had a long shift because we work 24-hour shifts. So I'll come home from a 24-hour shift and I am dead tired because I only slept an hour or sometimes not even slept at all. And you get in there and then you go work out, even though tired. To me, that's more of like the hard work that comes with it versus the emotional part. At least that's what I think. At what point in the process did you stop thinking of yourself as someone that was trying to lose weight and start thinking of yourself as someone who lives differently now? When did that identity shift happen for you?
When I got comfortable making meals and taking them to places that aren't normal to take meals to. When you start having like family holiday places, and if you want to enjoy the holiday is one day and it's usually like one meal, it's usually not going to hurt you that bad. But I was committed enough to where I wanted to make sure that I crossed every T and dotted every I. So I would start taking Tupperwares to, family gathering, holiday events. And when I realized that I was the only one doing that, and I had already had some progress going, I was okay with that. And I realized that's where it's different. Because people with general weight loss, they'll understand they can have some times where they have a little bit of flex foods, and I still have my flex foods now, but it's when you're doing things abnormally and you're comfortable with doing things abnormally, that's when I think it becomes okay. I'm a different kind of person.
You're a different person. How has the definition of what it means to be a man changed through all of this for you? Like not what you grew up hearing like man should be, because I think it's different in a lot of cultures, but what do you believe about what it means to be a man now?
So there's a massive difference now. Like I said before, I thought it was more of, hey, just financially provide, you'll be okay. Everything else will fall into place. Life will happen the way it needs to happen. But no, being a man now is leading by example in all ways that you can. And that means providing strong faith in the home, talking to your kids about how important God and Jesus Christ is in your life. It's having those conversations about how important your health is to your children. It's about expressing these different things and, loving and protecting. And it's about doing everything that you need to be the best possible man you can be for your family. I have the full understanding now that I have a wife and 3 children. If my body is incapable of protecting them or saving them or helping them in some way, then I'm not doing my job. So if I'm not, if I'm at the end of the day, being a man is being able to provide, protect, and guide. And you need to be able to provide, protect, guide, and lead the way in all aspects that you can think of, while still understanding that you have to have control enough as well within yourself. You brought up Marcus Aurelius, and of course, you think of like Seneca and all these others that speak about how important it is to regulate emotion and regulate, clear your mental and understanding how important, how strong that is. And I'm not going to lie to you, I've struggled plenty of that in my lifetime, and I still have my moments. But one of those things that I've tried so heavily to do is self-evaluate at the end of every day and say, you know what, this is what I did wrong. This is what I did okay with. This is what I think I did really good at. And then you take those and you say, how do I improve? You don't just say, this is what I did good at. Yay me. You say, here's what I need to improve on. This is what I'll do better tomorrow. And it could be something as simple as, hey, I don't like the way I did this. I think I cut a corner here. Or, it could just be something simple. Doesn't have to be, related to weight loss or related to work or anything like that. It could be something really simple within the home, but at the end of the day, try to have some takeaways that you could say, I can improve here. Let's try to do better tomorrow. And I'm really starting to enjoy that process of doing those things because I feel like it's making me a better person.
That's cool, man. You said all that there's up and downs and struggles every day. We talked about Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, and the thought came to mind when you said that, is that they were going through that shit too. Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations because he was going through that stuff and he was self-reflecting and he was moving through those steps. He just had to do it in a time where there wasn't anything to learn from. There was no YouTube, there was no therapist. It was just him. I mean, it did help that he was the emperor of Rome, but So you've conquered a lot of fears. You got to a point where you're comfortable with you're healthier. You fixed your diet, you fix your body, your relationships with your wife, with your sister sounds like they're pretty good. They're your support system. What scares you now?
The thought of failure will probably be the real thing that scares me. Probably the rest of my life. Just the thought of failure generally. I've always been very competitive, so you want to be the best at things. But the thought of failure is scary to me because I'm trying so heavy to be the best at things. I don't want to get in my own way. I don't ever want to think that I know more than I know. I don't ever want to get to the point where I feel like I'm on top of the world. And, cause that's where failure happens, is where people realize, people don't realize that they're not the best, or they're not perfect, and, they're not the only answer. And you get in your way enough to where it leads to your downfall. And it could be like that with anything. You could have pride hurt you in so many different ways. You could have pride of being the best dad in the world, but you're letting so many things fall short because you believed that you were the best. There's, ways of seeing that in business. There's ways of seeing that anywhere generally in your marriage. You could think that you're doing everything perfect, but you're not asking the questions or finding the answers. You're just kind of believing that you're doing that good. And, really, I want to be prideful enough to say that I'm here to make a difference and make a purpose, and I want to be prideful enough that I know I'm chasing a real purpose, and I know I'm going to succeed at what I do, but also understand that I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form, and that I'm learning every day, and that there's a lot of different things that I may not know every answer to, and I'm willing to learn. Yeah. So that's how I'm doing my best I can to avoid the thought of failure at anything. But other than that, I don't really fear anything, man. It's, I'm a God-fearing man. I mean, that's about it. But everything else is just generally just wanting to be the best I can at what I do, and trying to help change the lives of others and help benefit them positively anytime I can come into interaction with them.
That's cool, man. So the majority of the listeners are men. When I look at the algorithm, if there's one of them that's listening right now that feels lost, disconnected, like they're doing everything they're supposed to do, but they still feel nothing, what do you think they're missing, and what do you want to say to them?
One of the biggest things I can say that more than likely is missing is a sense of purpose. A sense of purpose, a sense of drive. And you can find that by doing things that purpose-driven people do. For example, people in the military tend to have workout groups, tend to do workouts together. You have basic camaraderie. You're going through tougher shit together. One of the biggest things is I truly believe when you feel lost as a man is usually because you don't have the same sense of purpose that you once had. You don't feel as attached to what was driving you in the first place. You feel like you may not have the drive to continue to improve something. Every day, for example, I wake up with the purpose of knowing that I could possibly help change someone's life. We talked about earlier about the views thing. You could have one person be affected by X amount of views, regardless of how big or how small that number is. And that one person is all it took. And at the end of the day is understanding and finding little purposes within your day and saying, what purpose suits me? I feel like I've gotten into the point where I understood that serving is something that I benefit from mostly. Internally, forms of service is what benefits me. I feel like if I can bring something of value to someone else, whether it be words of advice, words of encouragement, or something I may have had experience with, or anything along the lines of a health journey or anything like that, if I can provide value to you, then I'm serving a purpose. And if you continue to chase that purpose every day, then you're never going to get bored. You're never going to get tired. You're never going to feel like you don't have a reason to be here, because you know you're chasing something new and you can affect someone's life each day.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Especially the purpose part. Like you have to find purpose, or else you have to find something to live for, whether it be your wife, your family, your cat. If you could give one instruction to somebody that's listening that feels stuck right now, one simple instruction of what they could do tomorrow morning, what would it be?
How simple and short are we talking? Like,
I mean, that's money. A simpler or shorter that you want. Like if it's longer, then it goes longer. It doesn't matter.
Got it. You said that they're struggling?
Yeah. So if you have one instruction to a man who feels completely stuck right now, what do they need to do tomorrow morning?
So the first thing is wake up and have the initial thought right away that you have the possibility to impact someone else's life immediately. And it doesn't mean that you have to go out and do something extravagant. You could quite literally walk out your door and tell your neighbor a small compliment that could have changed the whole course of their day. Imagine how certain simple little things can affect your own life and thoughts, and then now try to implicate that on someone else. And you'll be surprised with how well you'll feel after knowing that you helped do something positive in the right direction for someone else. And I've gotten a lot of my own personal fulfillment from trying to help others. And
yeah, you started a company called Us Over I versus Ourselves, right? You're wearing the hat, you're wearing the shirt. I'm still wanting to go buy some from your website. I really like it because it's very countercultural. Everything is in modern life tells you that to optimize yourself, to invest in yourself, to build on yourself. Where did that philosophy actually come from? And what was there a specific moment, or was it something you earned, something you saw? Where does that philosophy of Us Over I come from?
So for the first part, I do believe to some extent you do have to have the mask over your own, face before you can help others on an airplane. So I do believe you do have to try to be your own best self, but the us over I mentality is, like our hat states, us over I versus ourselves. That's the whole over the individual versus the internal battle we all face each and every day. So it's mental health, physical health, and community involvement. Those are the three core values that we have behind our entire brand. Everything about it is based out of understanding. For me, it came from the thought of my health journey, and then it expanded broader. So within my health journey, I had a great community around me. Physical health helped my mental health helped my physical health. And all three of those things were so important for my health journey. And then I realized that they're important for your entire life. Then I came to the conclusion that apparel is the best way to go about sharing a message. So we use Us Over I through apparel so that we can share the message with the world. We want to help impact the world. It starts locally, and then it continues to expand bigger and bigger until eventually the message is shared everywhere. And we want people to be a bridge between different things that we may see as boundaries. So for example, during COVID, we had the most quote unquote socially awkward period of time where people had a lot of adjustment. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of people that wanted to stay home. They didn't want to go out and have the same social interaction. So during that time, these teenagers during that time definitely got hit hard, to where some may find it more awkward with this younger generation coming up to have face-to-face interaction as easy. So with this apparel, you can use that as a bridge within that time period to help generate the thought of, oh, I can speak to this person. This person believes in something bigger than themselves. This person has a further extension of themselves that says, I care more about others as well. And it says like, hey, I'm a part of this, and this is the strong culture that they have. I want to help make an impact as well. And then it continues to chain through that, and it isn't just a cool logo or a cool design. Anybody could have drawn up a cool, dragon or a cool, a cool gorilla or something, make it look awesome. You can get an artist, you can do that if you want to, but I wanted something that was going to impact lives rather than just look cool. So we're trying to find a mixture of both. Of course you want your designs to look good. You want, everything to look solid, but at the end of the day, we're getting involved in the community. We're doing multiple events throughout the course of the year. And this stemmed from my health journey and finding these three key core values, and understanding that if you can extend that arm to other people and get them to understand just how important those three pieces are in their own life, then they'll continue to better themselves as well.
Tell me a little bit more about these events that you're putting on. Like, what do they look like? How could people get involved? What is the cost? Who benefits? So if somebody wants to go help out, what do they do?
Yeah, so we do regular events throughout the course of the year. So when we started back in December of last year, we did an event that helped raise financial funding for families that don't have enough money for Christmas. So we were able to provide $100 to 3 different families to help them provide with more for Christmas, whether it be food or gifts. We gave them Walmart gift cards. So they kind of use it for either or, and help provide for that, for those homes. Then we led into starting to do trash pickups. So we did a trash pickup at the baseball fields on the Loop here in New Braunfels. That was our first event, had a pretty good turnout there, about 25 people. The second event, we did a river cleanup. That was actually really fun because we brought out water balloons and water guns for the kids. And
That's cool.
we want to get the kids involved with doing good things for the community, because the kids are the next generation. You need to lead the next generation just as much as you do the people that are currently here, because if you can lead that next generation to do the right thing without having to force them to do anything, then they're going to be willing and they're going to be excited. And then now you create real generational change. So we got them involved and had fun little incentives. So they helped with the trash pickup. They had fun on the river.
That's cool.
We had a couple extra water guns, so we started tossing them out to people on the river, and they were having a blast. And it was a really good event. The most recent one we did was Steps to Remember on Memorial Day. So the day before Memorial Day, we did our first annual Steps to Remember event here in New Braunfels. That is a camaraderie event for Memorial Day. So instead of doing a more somber memorial event, we wanted to bring together the veteran community that may be hurting and their families that may be hurting from people that they've lost, and try to show them like, hey, people are understanding, people are here for you, you know, we care. And it was more of a fun environment to kind of get with people that are like-minded and supportive, so that they feel more welcomed rather than, you know, going home and dealing with their demons on their own. You know, we wanted to create a place where we can go for a walk together as a community, build awareness to the holiday. Obviously, we all carried our flags. We had Old Glory flags. We had 22 a day veteran flags. We had our Lionheart walks, which is the Tuesday walks that they do. It's called Lionheart Walks. Jason Gomez puts it on, and I partnered up with him for that event. And every Tuesday he does a 22 veterans a day walk in Landa Park. So we work together on that one. We're looking forward to doing our next one. We're definitely doing another trash pickup soon, and then we have another event coming up. So stay tuned for that one.
Okay. And you just go to the website to kind of look for it up, or how do you announce it? Like, where do you advertise for it?
So we're heavily on Facebook and Instagram, and we also have our webpage. So we'll have the events updated on our webpage as well, and we'll also have plenty of promotion done on our Facebook and Instagram pages.
Okay, cool, man. I'll probably join you on one of those. Actually, it sounds pretty cool. Let's see, what part of the old Marcus, the one before all of this, still shows up? And when he does, what does he want?
So I call that the bitch voice. It's something that's had to be built up is the no negotiation part of that. And understanding that if you allow it back in, even if it's just a little bit here and there, then it turns into more. It's like the slippery slope we talked about earlier. When it comes to the old bitch voice showing up, you got to remember that that's not who you are anymore. That's not the person you're choosing to be. And remember that you are making this choice to improve yourself. You are making this choice to be a better version of you, because you remember the old version of you didn't serve you well. So, you got to remind yourself that there isn't a home for that anymore. You know, that isn't who it is. And every now and then you will slip. Every now and then you'll have those moments. But when you do, you remind yourself real fast that that wasn't who you spent all this time trying to create a different person for.
Yeah. Kind of similar tone. Do you think rebuilding ever actually ends? Or is it that one thing that keeps that nobody tells you, that you won't finish becoming somebody, you just have to keep going?
So you'll fight it every day. It's ultimately, I believe that you'll fight it every day, no matter what. And when you fight it, you really do grow stronger. As long as you continue to make the better choices. If you continue to make choices of the new version of you, it'll grow stronger in being the newer version of you. But vice versa, if you start going back to the older ways, it'll be easier to become the older you again.
Yeah.
So you are in a constant battle. but that constant battle is worth fighting compared to allowing yourself to roll over and be the person that was hurting you in the long run.
Yeah.
So I'm all for fighting that fight.
I think it goes up and down too, right? Like, I think some days you'll have better days where you'll start doing all the things, and then you'll go to the gym for like a month in a row, and then you skip, life happens, you skip 1, 2, 3 days, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I really want to go. It's like you have to force yourself. So I think you just have to keep pushing on you.
Yeah, those are I call them seasons of life. I can't coin that term. I've had coaches that have told me that. But they're seasons of life, and you got your moments of ups and downs, you got your highs and lows, and you got your you kind of got to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, it's time for me to pull out of this low.
Yeah.
And let's get back to work, and let's set a ceiling and a floor. I'm going to stay above this. I'm going to stay below this, and let's get back to work.
Yeah, just keep bouncing off those. All right, I'm going to start wrapping it up. So I try to usually end the show with a rapid fire question, kind of like Tim Ferriss style from Tools of Titans. I don't know if you ever read that book. If you haven't, it's really good. So just whatever comes to mind, just short questions. Here we go. What belief has most changed your life?
Stronger faith. Stronger faith, and leaning into God and His purpose, and that's been the ultimate one. Is purpose driven life and a God driven life. Trying to lean more into Him, talking more to Him daily.
Yeah. What is something that you used to believe strongly that you don't believe anymore?
Oh, that you can't eat carbs and have successful weight loss at all. I mean, all that does is teach your body to live off of them, and then when you get back on them, your insulin spikes so damn high because your body's not used to processing it.
Yeah, but tortillas are so delicious, man.
Oh man,
that's my kryptonite. In the mornings, breakfast with a bunch of tortillas. I have to every time I eat one, I have to go run it off. What's a book that you put in the hands of a man who's stuck right now?
Extreme Ownership.
I love that book.
Great book. Absolutely amazing book.
I made my daughters read them when they were little.
Extreme Ownership is one of the best ones you can get your hands on, especially if you want to know why. If you're a why me person, not to pick at you. I've been there. I've been a why me person. If you're a why is this happening to me? Why is this? Why? If you're asking all those questions, go read that book. Pick it up. Jocko Willink. He'll do an amazing job of explaining a lot of different things to you that'll help you with your life.
I love that book. That's one of the ones that I attribute to changing my life in a lot of positive ways. But I think that the things that he writes in that book are so common sense once you read it that you're like, how come I didn't think of this before? If I ever have Jocko on the podcast, hopefully, praying to God, I get to the point where I want to do. Jocko, if you ever watch this, you're going to be here one day. But I'm going to ask him this question. It's like, why do you think that those lessons that you teach in that book are so common sense, but nobody knows about them? And it takes, such a long time for people to realize.
I think a lot of that is because we turn away. We spend so much time choosing to turn away from those thoughts.
Yeah.
So you're thinking of those thoughts, but you don't want to think of those thoughts because it's easier not to. It's easier to not say it's my fault. It's
easier to give yourself the way out. Yeah.
Yep.
What are you actively trying to get better at right now?
Being the best possible dad and husband. 100%. I know I got purpose in what I'm doing every day. I know I got purpose in what I'm creating. I want to be the best father and husband I can be. And I know I'm talking to God every day. I feel like I'm checking boxes in other areas, but I want to just get better and better every single day at being a better husband and father.
Who has had the biggest impact on who you are and what did they do? I think I think I know who you're going to say.
And I actually have a lot of people. I have a lot of people when it comes to this question. So it's hard because they're different people for different reasons. And overall, the biggest impact, obviously, for my life and continuing forward and realizing that, purpose is important, is my little sister. Saving my life is one of the greatest things that could have ever happened for me. But the other thing, my wife is extremely important, and her support and everything that she's done for me in this life. And I'll always, be very appreciative of the way I was raised and my parents. But it's hard to narrow it down because there's different people
many
for
people
different reasons and different. you would have to break it into categories of most important for this, this, and this.
So it's more like it's more your community that helped you throughout the combined efforts of a bunch of people that helped you to get where you are.
That's why I believe community is one of the biggest parts and one of our core values, and understanding that community is extremely important, because if you have the right community, you will go so much further in your life and everything that you do.
I agree. I like this question a lot, the one that I'm about to ask next. If you, and I like it because of my own kids, but if your kids were to watch this episode 20 years from now, what do you want them to remember about who their dad was when we sat down right here?
A man that never gave up trying his best in anything. They're going to have seen many ups and downs in that 20 years. And hopefully I'm there to watch it with them, because at the end of the day, I want them to understand that I tried to give them the best I possibly could. And I'm not talking about just financially. I'm not talking about, every last little toy or whatever it may be that they want. I'm talking about the best input that I could have given them to live a successful, healthy, and happy life.
Yeah. I've always loved questions like that, because I think often about my kids of when I'm doing the podcast of what I want them to see later. Okay, final question. Marcus, when someone is carrying shame, regret, failure, or the feeling that they are just too far gone, what do you want them to know now?
Show up one more day. Show up one more day. One more day, one more time, one more decision. Keep showing up, because life will have its funny ways of showing up. And that's a nice cicada.
Oh, I know.
Life will have its ways of showing up and showing you why you should have continued going. And you'll see those times again. Just show up one more day. Show up one more time. Show up for that next decision. And show up the best way that you can. Even if you only have 5% left in the tank, show up with that full 5. Show up with what you got every day. I tell people that in their health journey too. Is you only got 40% to give me today, show up with 40.
Yeah.
Show up with what you got, even if it feels like it's nothing.
But just show up the next day.
You can.
I love that.
The next day.
I love that. Marcus, thank you so much for coming. I really do appreciate it. Like I was saying earlier, I loved your story. I loved your transformation. And believe it or not, as impressive as the transformation is, I think the mentality that goes behind it is actually a better story than anything else. Because I think anybody else, if you try hard enough, people could lose weight, right? Like now there's all this help, GLP-1s, all that stuff. Whether I'm not either for or against, if it helps people, great. If it doesn't, if you want to do it on your own, that's cool too. But I think the mentality that goes behind to what you did and what you have accomplished with, the us over I, with your transformation, with your company that you're starting, I think that's more impressive than anything else. So I appreciate you being here, honestly, and maybe we'll do it again, and I will see you again soon in one of your events.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And thank you so much for this opportunity and this opportunity to reach others. And ultimately, man, I agree with you. I do believe that the purpose behind everything that came with the journey is truly what's gonna elevate my life even further. Like you said, anybody could put their brain to it and get it done. But are you going to take the lessons with you? Are you going to take those things with you and try to push it forward for someone else?
Yeah.
Are you going to realize that God pulled you out of a hole, not just for you, but for others? He didn't just pull me out of that hole just so I could celebrate by myself at the top. He pulled me out of that hole so I could reach back in and see who I could help out. And that's not what just health. That's with everything that I learned along my journey, and I'm here to help as much as I can.
Cool. Well, thanks, man. It's a wrap. I appreciate it. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Thanks for having me, man.
No, man. That was good. I think that was pretty good.